Hello and welcome to Geography for today. Sorry I could not be in class, but we'll still be able to continue anyways. So the first thing I need you guys to do is take out your iPads, open up to Notability, and please go to your Chapter 2, Tools of Geography. Excuse me, that's called a spatial way of thinking. I'm sorry, my fault. All right, so we're going to open up our books to page 30 as well. I'm going to give you a moment to do both those things right now. If you need, please press pause until you have those things ready to go. All right, so looking at our page, what we can be doing is right now we should have our tablet split screened so that we have our Notability on the right-hand side and this Explain Everything or YouTube video on the left-hand side. We're going to start by answering our questions, and in our directions it says, answer the following questions and turn to page 30. So, the first question says, what are 3 factors that impact the climate? Take a moment right now, press pause, read page 30, and then answer this question. Okay, so now we should be back. In our book, it says there are 3 things that affect climate. The first thing that affects climate is latitude. We have talked about this before, and that the closer you are to the equator, the warmer you are going to be. So our latitude is going to be the first thing that impacts. Think about it this way. The closer we get to the North or South Pole, the colder it's going to be. The second thing that impacts climate is going to be elevation. The height you are off the ground is going to make it either colder or warmer. Think about a mountaintop and how on the top of a mountain it is always snow-peaked or capped with snow. That is because it's colder the further you move up in elevation. The last thing that affects climate are large bodies of water. Water and water temperatures and water currents are all going to affect the temperature and climate of a place that you are living near. Take, for example, Seattle. Seattle gets rain over 150 days each year. We can also look at Italy. Italy has an unseasonably warm climate as a result of their location in the Mediterranean Sea. So when we ask and we're talking about what 3 factors impact climate, we should always remember latitude, elevation, and large bodies of water. Our next question says, what does a world climate map show information about? Now, in our book, it says, a climograph shows the average temperature and precipitation in a place over a year. So we want to make sure that we have that written down. It shows the average temp and precipitation. Now I'm going to write in here, precipitation literally means rain. So think about when you're going out to school every morning, what 2 things do you want to know? What is the temperature going to be like, and is it going to rain? Do I need to wear a jacket, and do I need my umbrella? All right, and in every climate zone that we look at, we're going to look at how much precipitation, rain or snow, and what are their average temperatures. Now we're going to see some places are going to have a greater range of temperature, maybe going from 0 all the way to 100, and some places are going to be much less, only going from 60 to 80 or from 30 to 40. All right, so as we look at these climate zones, we're going to be looking at those 2 things. This is going to take us to our map below, where we're going to start to label and define the following climate zones. We can find these climate zones on the bottom of page 30. Please take a moment right now to look at the bottom browned out section of page 30 and 31. Starting left to right, they read ice cap, subarctic, marine west coast, Mediterranean, semi-arid, tropical wet and dry, tundra, highlands, humid continental, humid subtropical, arid, and tropical wet. Now, in your book, you are looking at what is known as a climograph. A climograph is going to show information like what we said. And I'm going to show you a basic climograph here. And what these look like is a chart that is not only going to show you temperature, and temperature is represented by the line graph, usually having a color in the back, but also represents precipitation, which is your bar graph. Now, I know this is a very rudimentary drawing, all right, but you can get the idea of what you're starting to look at based on this. Down below are the months, so January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. We always read these the same. Temperature from the left and precipitation from the right. Our bar graph, we're going to read this, our line graph we're going to read this way, and our bar graph we're going to read this way. And so we can see month by month averages across bottom of page 30 and 31, month by month averages of temperature and precipitation. We're going to use this information further down in our boxes down here. And so this is where we want to start. We're going to start in our top left box like we did last time, and we're going to start by looking at the color that's in this area. I'm going to zoom in, all right? I'm going to follow my box, and I'm going to see that it's into that light purple. In order for me to figure out what that light purple is, I need to take this down to my key or legend. Now, I can see that this one's a little bit hard to read, all right? But I can see over here that it says subarctic. All right, and if you're having trouble read that, just try to make out the words as best you can, and then you can compare them to the bottom of the book at page 30 and 31. So I'm going to write in the box subarctic. And then I'm going to write down the definition from my book. And in here it says it's cold, snowy winters and cool, rainy summers. And cool, rainy summers. Now, think about what we said before, and this will start to make a little bit more sense. We said the further we are away from the equator, the colder it's going to be. So here's my equator down here, and I can see if I'm looking at my longitudinal lines that run this way, all right, I am up near 60 degrees north. And I notice that my subarctic is mostly contained in this north area. So this starts to make sense of how close I am to the equator and how that affects my temperature. All right, so now moving left to right, I am now going to move to my right, and I'm looking in the United States. I'm looking at this box right here and how this line comes all the way down into here. So as I look in here, now I'm seeing where this line comes in over here. All right, and as I'm looking at that area, I got to take it down. Now I got to go and look at my key. And so I'm looking down here for this. Now here's what I want you to notice, is notice these greens. Okay, these greens can sometimes get confusing because especially these two on the map look very similar, and even these two on the map look very similar to one another. So we have to be very careful on this. Now you're going to be able to zoom in on your notability much better and be able to read these. My program is not giving me a good view of this, but I know that that is called humid continental. All right, so in here we are going to write humid continental. And I know what you may be thinking. You may be thinking, well, I'm not sure that's the right green. But when I compare this green, these two greens together, and then this green to over here, you'll see that there is a difference, and this is that middle shade of green in this area. All right? I know this from experience from doing this for many years. I've made the mistakes before, so just be careful and compare these greens compare the greens in these areas before just going with one color. All right, so I'm not going to give you the definition. You guys are going to be working on that. I'm just going to do a few more with you to make sure that you understand what you're doing. And then from there, all right, you're going to finish this up, and I'll have a few videos that you're going to watch on climate zones, on rotation, revolution, and a few other things. All right? So, again, we're working left to right, and now I look at this box here, and I'm going to follow these black lines off to here, and I see that it's white in the very middle. Now, I'm going to take this down to my key again, and I see that white tells me that it's ice cap. So in my box, I'm going to write ice cap. And then you guys are going to go ahead and define it. All right, so again, I'm still continuing over. I look at my next one. I see it's that dark purple. And we said that this one was subarctic, that light purple. So now I got to look for that dark purple, which tells me that it's tundra. So in my box, I write tundra. And then you guys are going through and define it. So what I need you guys to do is go through the rest of this graph. Notice where each one of these are pointing at. Notice how this one is pointing down here to the brown. I caution you, please be careful of these browns. All right? Notice that there are two shades of brown. You have the Mediterranean and you have a highlands climate zone. All right? Notice the different shades of them and make sure that you are comparing the two, because you'll see that they look very, very similar. But when I compare this shade of brown versus this shade of brown, I can see that there are clearly differences. So make sure that you're using the right one and going through and defining what each climate zone looks like. And as you're doing this, please look at those climate graphs and look at how much precipitation, how much, what is their average temperature, and what is their average precipitation for each year. You should be busy for the entire period. If you should finish early, again, there are videos that you're going to be able to watch on the website. I hope you guys have a good day, and if you need to rewind or rewatch, please go ahead and do that.